Hey, I think we should be live. Do I have this set to view publicly this time? Yes. Okay, we should be live. So, in theory, you should be able to hear me and see everything okay. Let us know if you have any issues with the audio or stuff like that. The goal for today is to overclock the 3900 XT, and we're going to be doing that with liquid nitrogen. I'm just going to send out a quick tweet and tell everyone we are live. We are live with the 3900 XT liquid nitrogen overclocking stream. Okay. Yeah, so this one, we've worked with the 3600 XT a lot, but we have not, we're someone saying, you are not live. We have not worked very much with the 3900 XT. So I did a little bit of pre-testing on it, but not too much. And then I also talked to Hardware Numbers, who is an extreme overclocker, and got some additional guidance on the software side of things. So we're going to try some of that out today. I haven't worked with the MSI tuning software that I downloaded in a stream before. We're going to try some of that out. As for everything else, I think if you want to catch up on, oh, nice, Commanso's in the chat. Thank you for letting me know about the audio. So yeah, we did some stuff on the 3600 XT. We did a like normal overclocking thing. I used a rig that was completely not at all normal, but it actually didn't work as well as I wanted, so it ended up being about the same as if you did like a closed loop liquid cooler. But the whole point of that stream was just to show off, I actually don't know what there it goes, just to show off like how we normally walk through a real overclocking setup with a new CPU, especially an AMD one, and we're talking about setting more reasonable voltages, more reasonable memory settings, CPU settings, all that stuff, the whole point of which was to look at a non-liquid nitrogen stream setup. So now we're doing actually LN2 instead. We haven't done one of these for a little while, but it is, I don't know, it's set up on the same board I've used in the past, just newer, better memory than we've used in the past. So we're using an X570 Godlike. I think actually the description says we were using the master, which is not correct. I'll update that. But that's what we used last time. This time we're using the Godlike and using the same Trident Z Royals memory. It's like stupid expensive memory, very good, but not necessarily what we'd say you should buy for daily use at that caliber. Okay, updated that description. Super chats I'm going to take probably on a 30 to 60 minute delay. Some of them I'll hit earlier. And then we're just kind of waiting for some people to fill in a bit now. So what's chat saying? Someone says you're not very HD. Well, click on the gear, I guess, and try setting it to 1080p 60. Andrew, let's get what's the shutter on that? If we do don't we normally drop it for streams?
It's at 1/180 right now.
Oh, I don't remember what we normally do. That might be it. Yeah, so first thing we need to do is set everything up on the bench, and I've got everything plugged in, just need some thermal paste, get the LN2 pot on there, stuff like that. What do the 3900 XT's OC2 on a standard AIO? You can check our review for all of that. So it's about like 4.3, 4.4. We can do 4.5 with SMT off. That's with fairly normal settings. That's in our review. So not too high, not much different than the 3900X. But the XT is the one we need to really play around with here. Is it just one guy saying bitrate is bad? I think it's just one person. 3 people, okay. Well, let me check. The bitrate is correct on our end. It's not any different from normally. So either it's a YouTube thing or I would have to stop the stream and then start again to change the bitrate because I can't change it while it's streaming. So I don't know. I think we'll just go with it. It looks kind of okay to me. I don't know. If you wanted to check the computer, okay, so people are saying it's okay now. Bitrate shows up bad when the camera moves. YouTube's defaulting to 40. I don't know. You got to change it then. I can't control what YouTube's doing. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. So let me take the first, like the three super chats that came in, then we'll get started with this. First one was from Jack, $5 sent in. Thank you very much. Said, thanks for all the content you make. Looking forward to seeing those fan benchmarks soon. Soon is maybe the operative word there. Not sure about that, but I am also looking forward to doing them. Recycled sent in $2. Thank you. And just a super chat sticker, which I always forget exists. They added that somewhat recently. Andreas Sheriff sent in $5. Said I did something silly and got a 3900 XT. It arrives tomorrow, but the paste arrives on Saturday. I couldn't help myself. Well, thermal paste is fairly abundant, so you could probably, I don't know, if you build computers somewhat regularly, your old air coolers or aftermarket coolers may have a tube that was never used, but that's still not that long of a delay. I mean, it's not an objectively bad CPU or anything. It's just that the price was weird. So if you want one, then whatever, it's fine, especially if you want to tune it and like try and do some of the stuff we're doing even without liquid nitrogen. It's a relatively fun part for that. You typically get better voltages at a given clock than you would with the X part, but obviously we didn't recommend buying it in general for plug and play use, but there's still some use cases for these XT CPUs. Okay, I'm going to move on from the super chats for a bit and get into working on actually doing the stream. So, looks like, do you think the IF will be higher than the normal 1400 LN2? I don't know, maybe a little bit, but I'm not really an expert on like working with Infinity Fabric under LN2, other than stop stalling, someone says. Literally answering questions that people paid to ask. So, not really what that is. Super rude to the other people in chat. Yeah, so I'm not an expert on any kind of overclocking, but good enough in general. Infinity Fabric, though, is one of the parts I haven't played around with very much under liquid nitrogen. So I typically just set it to like 1467 and forget about it. But that's just the way I deal with it. This is going to be how I'm dealing with the paste today. So this liquid nitrogen pot is so damn heavy that it will just smash out all of that paste and spread it pretty evenly on its own. So we don't really need to worry about spreading it manually. Sometimes do that, but normally with the bigger chips like HEDT Threadripper or something like that. And we are using Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut for this. Thermal Grizzly is a sponsor for the stream today. You can find their thermal paste linked in the description below if you'd like to pick some up. We use Cryonaut for the extreme overclocking stuff. It does better at sub-zero temperatures. And if you're doing more like AIO type stuff, Hydronaut would be their option for that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Normally I move it around a little bit just to make sure it kind of sticks so it doesn't float too much since there's no mounting hardware, but it doesn't really need it. And let's see. Okay, just checking on chat because I knew people would talk about the thermal paste. Okay, seems like everybody's on the same page for once. Okay, good. All right, so we need some liquid nitrogen. So I always keep LN2 in the dewar if we have it. We've also got a tank 180 liters over there. This is probably about half empty, 30 liters right now. We don't actually need it when we boot up the system. There's kind of enough mass in that LN2 pot to soak it under idle. There's like a gnat right next to this thing, and if it flies in the LN2, it's gonna get frozen. Once it's at desktop, it doesn't really need the cooling support. It's just for once we start clocking it. So does that paste degrade with LN2? I'm not really sure what degrade means to people when they're talking about paste. It's like you're not running 24/7 with LN2, so you're not really worried about over time aging of the paste. You're really just worried about does it crack or not once you bring it down and then bring it back up with a torch. Okay, let's boot up. And it is floating a little bit, but as soon as I get some liquid nitrogen there, it'll more or less freeze in place, and we won't need to worry about it anymore. Hopefully that's mounted sufficiently, but I can remount it if we end up needing it. Okay, just gonna kind of freeze that where it is. The compound on both sides of the IHS will more or less solidify at some point. Oh. I've got just a maglev fan here to blow the vapor away from the system, the bench. We're not running as much insulation, but I have Vaseline all over the board, so that's going to be fine. We could run shop towels everywhere, but hopefully won't really need it today. We get into BIOS and look at our BIOS settings. Okay. Ever considered doing a super simple how to build a PC guide so people can become a builder? We have one from several years ago, and building a computer hasn't changed. So there's not really a reason for us to do a new one. I mean, at some point maybe, just to kind of update things, but I don't know. It's like kind of an easy video for our channel at this point. I feel like we provide better value with other things. I don't know that wasting an upload slot on how to build a computer is better for the whole, but maybe at some point we would do it if we feel like things have sufficiently changed to warrant talking about it again. Okay, so I've got a pretty simple setup to start with here, and we're using the MSI Godlike, so this is MSI BIOS. How's this screen looking right now? Oh, that's not bad actually. And not using the XOC BIOS, just I think it's one of the later revisions for the XT series. But stuff we have set right now, memory is just at 3800. Not doing anything good with timings at all. I think I set them to like 15 and then auto for the rest. F-clock's 1467. Let's go ahead and bring that up to just 1400, which, I mean, we're not going to worry about one-to-one mode, I guess, for now. And then, let's see, digital power. So I've got mode 4 LLC, which in my experience, this has been the easiest to get stable. And then we've disabled all the overcurrent protections, over voltage protections. Most of that stuff is disabled, so that we won't have any just random shutdowns or black screens just from working on the setting the higher voltages that we need for everything. SoC I've got starting at 135. You should not use these settings for daily use. Vcore I have, technically it's on auto, but it's override, and then we're going to use software to hopefully change that later. And 1.5 for the memory. And then we've got several features disabled, so C-States, Spread Spectrum, and AMD Cool and Quiet, and SVM mode are all disabled. How much those help, it's kind of debatable, but those are all some of those are power-saving things that we just don't care about. And then for AMD settings, in the overclocking tab, we have LN2 mode, which is on, so that helps with stabilization at the lower temperatures, and then the rest we're mostly leaving alone at this point. And then multiplier, all that'll do in Windows. So let me send out a tweet and make sure everyone is in the video who wants to be in it. Okay. So about to, oh, that's nice. Let's run baseline testing for the 3900 XT in the stream. Okay. And then like usual, if you want to support the streams like this, when we do these, it obviously takes time away from doing the video uploads, or it requires just more time invested. So one of the best ways to support us is on store.gamersnexus.net, where during the stream I try to shout out a couple of the orders, no guarantees, but I do my best to try and get to some of the orders, shout them out, and then also do the super chats as usual, and then also interact with the other chat. So we've got this shirt that went up for sale in the last week. It's the one design I'm wearing, except I'm wearing the navy blue cotton. This is a tri-blend, which is like a lighter weight, more kind of like athletic feel to it. So if you want to pick up one of those, they are in cotton 100% or tri-blend. Tri-blend is black, and then the cotton one is a navy blue. It's the same color we did for our Australia shirt. Those have sold really well, so thank you to everyone who picked one up. Most of them have shipped, so you should get them soon if you bought last stream. And then we also have the X570 chipset Metro posters that we ended up doing another run of just because they sold out twice, so we decided to do one more. So we've got those on store.gamersnexus.net as well. If you want a representation or some artistic liberties taken with demonstrating a technical block diagram of chipset I/O, except on a unique map and a unique way to do it. Okay, so let me see if we can get this thing to actually boot. F10. One of the things that I changed is for the video card this time, I moved it down into the lowest slot. I think that should assist with some of the instability that we experienced in the past. I was getting a lot of VGA errors when it was in the top slot on the readout. Oh, does it say Ryzen 5 in the description? Thanks. So Ryzen 5. Okay, gotcha. Oh, I see. Okay, fix that. Let's see. Yeah, moving the video card down, though, did seem to help. So this readout right here on the MSI X570 board, it's on this side. Despite showing like stupid, silly animated things every now and then, that background noise is going to go away soon. It also will show errors, and one of the ones I was getting earlier with the video card in the top two slots was just VGA error, even though there was nothing wrong with it. So moving it to the bottom slot was a recommendation from Joe, and that seems to have resolved that issue at least. Now we have something else where I'm just trying to get it to take the settings and boot. There's our fan working as it should to get the vapor away from the bench so that we don't build up too much condensation on the actual platform. How do you increase the power limit on the CPU? If it's Intel, yeah, it's ICC Max is one of them. You just need to go into your motherboard's power tabs, which in this one is called digital power. Why is this being obnoxious? Let's see. Let's try, I should probably try restore defaults and then load them. So let's do a, I guess not OC profile, but settings, and then save and exit, and then I think it's restore defaults. Yes. Okay. And then don't want that. F10. Okay. Might as well just run the baseline off of that too, and then we'll change it later. Okay. Does the back of the monitor look like a transformer? Sort of a little bit. This monitor always gets comments. This is a gigabyte monitor. It's 8027QD is the monitor. Everyone always asks what it's called. Okay. This F2. Okay. So that should be booting. We're just going to run a baseline with probably just Cinebench R20 today for everything. How long this stream if 30 to 60 min delay? You mean on the super chats? Normally a couple hours, more than 30 to 60 minutes. So the stream's not on that much of a delay, but reading the super chats is, because normally I'm dealing with like trying to get the system to boot like we were just here. So it's a lot of troubleshooting and managing the system and then trying to talk to the other chat. And so I typically super chats are on a bit of a delay. Okay, let's do baseline. I'm going to launch hardware info. We should not have anything really applied at all. It should be total stock. Let's just see, double check that. Yeah, that's stock. Stock for the frequencies, memory is at super stock, so it's no good right now, but this will be our baseline for today. I'm going to start writing stuff down. So let's do full stock. And this is going to be CBR20, so I'll log the temperature, the score, or the frequency, voltage, the score, and then other. That should cover us. So we're at minus 20 degrees right now, so it's still very warm. Frequency, voltage, auto for both. Score is going to be known in a second. Is F-clock finally stable on higher speeds than on the 3900X, 3950X? Definitely not under LN2, not really. And for like the standard clocks, it was at 1900 megahertz or so that's a little bit better. But not the 2000 everybody wanted, at least not on our 3 CPUs. Okay. So 7630 is our baseline. I need to get those BIOS settings to apply, ideally, and then we can start using the MSI software for management within Windows. So I'm going to pull the SSDs just to kind of boot in to BIOS a little easier. What do you use for stability testing? It depends on what I'm testing. I like Blender for like a realistic, like can it hold an overclock for a real workload overnight or something. For memory, I like to use MemTest Pro. It's really good for that. Okay. All right, so let's try and get this to apply this time. OC profile. I have this problem with this board where every now and then it just won't take settings and it like clears them every time it boots. Load the profile. Let's F10 and restart and see what it does. I can reset CMOS if it continues to be a problem, but that is kind of what it's already doing. So maybe there's a short. I guess there could actually be a short on the CMOS reset button. That would be interesting. Are you reviewing the NR200? No, we don't review non-ATX cases right now. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is probably I can either pull the CMOS battery, pull a stick of memory, or try the reset CMOS button. It's just not applying the settings on boot, or I'll leave it alone actually first. Okay. Let's see, super chats. Demony BS, $5. Hey Steve, love your team's work. Is there anywhere to download your monkey head render? No, we don't distribute any of those. Tim, $5. No message. The Ozum, $5. Hi Steve. Hi. So what do I want to do here to try and fix this? Let's do. I feel like the reset CMOS button is going to be cursed, but let's try that first. Oh, can we? I thought we had a moderator in here, but I am seeing. I'm going to ban the spammer. Okay, that should be taken care of. All right. Yeah, screwdriver through the fan's a great way to get it to hold. Okay, this is a good start. That's what I wanted to see. And then let's try applying again and see if it actually holds this time. Load. F10, please actually work. The monitor is called AD27QD. I always have to look down at it because we taped it on the front. Okay. What is this? What currency is that? Colombian peso. Fernando Orozco says, sorry about the pronunciation, says, just wanted to say hi and learning a little bit more of how to OC. Well, the first thing we need to do, that actually looks better, is get it to boot. And then maybe you can learn something. I think this might have fixed it based on that, because what it was doing was resetting every time. That time it did not, so let's hope. I just plugged in the SSDs. They were not plugged in, so now I just need to see if it goes into Windows on its own. That's good, though. Okay. So for Fernando saying, learning a little bit more about how to OC, one of the, man, that's not a pain in the ass. One of the good places to check for like normal overclocking would be our latest stream archive we did, where we looked at this platform and, or what I should say, this set of CPUs, the XT series, and we did a kind of more normal overclock. We walked through the entire process of how we do overclocking for normal use, how we find the stable settings, how we find stable memory settings, stuff like that. So it's a really good kind of walkthrough. So what I've just done is pull one stick around, put the other in, and just gonna kind of reset it that way. Sometimes pulling the RAM and changing it will force it to wake up a little bit. Okay, now let's put the other one back in. And if this board keeps giving me issues, what I'll probably do is switch boards to the Gigabyte one we were using recently. Although then I'd have to use Ryzen Master, which is terrible. This person. Denvera 1G1. I've had some weird issues lately with AMD BIOSes resetting after every reboot. I manage over 1,000 machines, so I feel your pain. I think it's probably a few orders of magnitude worse on your end if you manage 1,000 machines. But I don't know if maybe that's like a university environment or something. That is a lot of machines. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know. We've had this issue for a little while on the Godlike, so maybe it's a short on the CMOS clear, but all I've done right now is just pull out the CMOS battery. So I'm going to give that a minute or so, and we've got everything unplugged or turned off. So we'll see if that helps wake it back up. And if it doesn't, then probably what I'll do, I might just boot in and see if we can use software to manage everything without some of the more advanced voltages I want to manage, or I can switch boards to the master, the Gigabyte board. Okay, this was working just fine earlier, but this is part of overclocking. This is the biggest thing, is that it's always patience. What's the board beneath the board? It is a test bench that's included in, that's either going to be the Z390 Dark or the X299 Dark. It's included in EVGA's high-end boards. They include the test bench with it. I'm going to go ahead and set the stuff I want manually, just in case it's some kind of issue with the profiles. I don't know. So we're just going to go through LN2 mode enabled, and the rest of the stuff we can access elsewhere. Max out the power limit, although that's not really, we're going to deal with that elsewhere too. Let's go to XMP, we'll just enable, and then I'm going to set this down to 3800. And F clock, we're going to set to, let's try 1467. So we are not running one-to-one. F clock, Infinity Fabric, and memory speed are not going to be one-to-one while we're doing this. I'm just going to tell these, actually I'm going to leave these alone this time. Digital power, we're going to set it to mode 4 for load line calibration, or voltage max out. Over current max out on at least this board. I hate the names here too. Like enhanced versus auto, I don't know what the hell that means. I would like to see numbers. ideally, or off. But a number would work too. Well, that's how MSI does it. Let's see. Enhanced. And turn that off. Turn that off. Okay. So we're going to set core voltage to auto. I'm just going to go ahead and type in a number and we'll change it in there later. So 1.4. And then let's set DRAM. I'm going to set to 1.5 for now. And is that VPP? Oh no, that's Vcore or VDIM. Okay. And then let's go ahead and set like 900. Oh, oops, that's in volts, not millivolts. I'll set that somewhere else too then. This is one of the things I complain about regularly with the AMD BIOS right now is they're all over the place with, like, some of the features are replicated 3 times. So disable all these. Okay, and now we're gonna go into settings. Advanced, AMD overclocking. LN2 mode should be on, yep. SoC voltage, oh, I actually want that higher, but we'll do that in the main menu. VDDG, I'm going to set to, let's do like, I don't know, 1100 and 1000. And then for SoC voltage, we're gonna set a 1.35 for starters. Okay, hopefully it takes these settings this time. Could be memory timings, but I kind of doubt it. Are you going to buy a Lenovo to test? No, we are not. Reason to go Intel, simple, business workstation. This isn't the expected use case of AMD. Like, you could do this on Intel too. Okay, so I'm gonna go with maybe it is not happy with the RAM or something, and we're gonna try and just, first of all, disable anything related to RAM, speeds and timings. And the next step would be to change kits just so I can move on if that's actually the problem. It's like such classic Intel versus AMD idiocy of Intel's better because you don't have to do this. Like, well, I mean, you don't have to do this on either of them. Okay, this looks good. Cool, that's good to see. Nice. So that saves the stream. So it's memory. So setting some screwy memory setting with all those auto config options I had. I'm probably going to go ahead and manually set it if I can. I don't really want the RAM running that low. It's probably at like 2133 or something like that right now. Do you like the Razer edition of the O11 Dynamic? If you like Razer's logo, I guess it's still an O11 Dynamic, and I do like that case. Kind of like how we feel. I'm really glad we discovered what the issue was on the boot. That's nice. Same way I feel about the Asus ROG like logo that they slap on the side of the XL. It's just like, well, it's there, I guess. You're probably paying for it, unfortunately, and I'm not sure that it adds a whole ton of value for most people. So for TRAS, I normally just set it with a simple rule of thumb of adding the 2 center digits together. 1515 gives you 30, and then I add 2. That's normally stable. Oh man, 666 is very high for RFC. And I think we're gonna, I don't know, this should be say about like 282, but I'm just gonna go ahead and set it to 372. And I'm gonna leave all the rest alone because I really don't want to do memory tuning today. We did some of that last time. And command rate's probably the next thing to look at, but we'll try that first. Okay. As I suspected, sometimes non-QVL memory resets BIOS settings. Yeah, non-QVL memory, this is one of the things that when doing, nice, okay, good. So what I just typed in, that fixed it, perfect. This is one of the things that when we do PC builds, we try to keep an eye on QVL, the qualified vendor list is what that means, where a lot of people will just kind of go, well, it's memory, it's so many gigabytes and it's this speed and I'd need a motherboard, and you just pick one of each. But realistically, you should be checking the QVL for the memory that you want to buy and make sure that on the motherboard qualified vendor list, the memory's on there. It'll probably work without it, but you can run into some of the issues that I just ran into here, where I was trying to run auto settings with XMP and it was just not booting. It was not stable. So the reason it was resetting is because I think I had the retries set to a low number. But yeah, I guess the learning point there is for system builds, check the QVL on the motherboard vendor's website and see if the RAM you want to buy is on there. It doesn't mean you can't combine them if it's not on there, but it will be easier for you if it is on the qualified vendor list. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down to just -20. We're going to run a baseline again, so we have a number with these settings I've just applied, and then in Windows, hopefully, I can start changing the speeds. So we are finally rolling with this. That's good to get that troubleshot and solved. Let me shout out a couple of the store orders. We had a few come in, so thank you to Konstantinos in Greece. Cool. Picked up a PC component shirt. Thank you for grabbing one of those. And was that Tri-Blend? That was a Tri-Blend shirt. We had someone in California, Matt in California. Thank you, Matt. Picked up an X570 chipset Metro poster. Oh, wait, 2 of them. Nice. If you tweet that at us and I happen to see it, I'll retweet it and stuff too. We saw a couple really cool ones come in from people where I think one of the most interesting ones I saw tweeted at us so far was a guy who has a model train set up and had the Metro poster on the wall because it combines the two hobbies. So that was really cool to see. Next one is from Francisco in Illinois, who picked up a PC component shirt as well. That's the one I'm wearing in the stream tonight. So thank you for picking that up. We also have the Tri-Blend one over here. So we're running Cinebench baseline again. And that's just with the new settings. It seems like everything's finally starting to cooperate. So next goal is going to be to start. I really need to figure out where does it shut down? Where does it cold bug out? What temperature? And that score is significantly lower, but we're going to start boosting the clocks in a second. So one thing to explain here. With full auto settings for Cinebench, the reason I reran this is because with full auto settings that we ran first, you're working with what should be probably a 1-to-1 Infinity Fabric to memory. So U clock, M clock, F clock are all 1-to-1-to-1. And we have a video explaining that. If you're curious to learn more about it, you can probably look for like Ryzen 3000 memory, Gamers Nexus, Infinity Fabric or something, you'll find it. And because we're now going into LN2, if I try to run Infinity Fabric at the higher frequencies to maintain 1-to-1 with the memory frequency, we're going to have issues where I can't bring it down cold enough. So you have to drop Infinity Fabric. I know a lot of you have probably heard this before in previous streams, but it's important to note because you'll see score decay like this when you make these changes to run like LN2, and then you just hope that you kind of make up for it later with all core frequency. But you have to drop IF to like 1400, 1467. I know Hardware Numbers was telling me that he's been able to run 1500 and 1600 sometimes, and that certainly helps. But so that's going to be our baseline for LN2 settings. So LN2 set is, I ran that at -20, and it's basically an auto on 1.4, and then 68, 73, and 1467, I think is what I set. Okay. All right, so now let's launch this thing and see if it works. This is the first time I'm going to be trying this software tonight. I did very little pre-testing, just kind of made sure it launched and sometimes applied settings. I had a lot of trouble fighting with this thing at the beginning, and then save the rest for the stream. So this is MSI Command Center Lite. This is software you can get on overclocking forums. There's similar software to this for most of the motherboard manufacturers. So Asus has Turbo Vcore. That's probably the most famous. You've likely seen Der Bauer using it. Gigabyte, I think, has some kind of software as well. MSI has this one, and it just allows you to do stuff you would normally do in BIOS here. One big change between this and Ryzen Master, this has a lot more voltage settings than Ryzen Master. And then critically, it also will allow us to set, I think, I haven't tried this yet, but it should let us set CPU Vcore higher than 1.55. Ryzen Master doesn't let you go higher than 1.55, so that starts to really limit our potential. What I'm gonna do right now is double check the voltages, make sure they are what I want them to be, and actually they're not. I see one that's incorrect. And we're gonna just set a 40x and make sure this thing actually applies. I'm gonna use hardware info to double check that. And the one that it changed on me that I didn't want changed is SoC. So if I didn't catch that, it would probably black screen. So that's gonna be 1.35. We can leave that alone for now. VDIM's 1.5, that's correct. Oh no, wait, sorry. SoC is 1.35 right there. What did I just set? Oh, chip SoC, I see. That was confusing, I see. And then we have Vcore is still 1.4, so that's correct. That's all inherited from BIOS. So it looks like it inherited everything from BIOS. Let's see if it just black screens right away or not. Kind of holding my breath here. Okay, all right. So this is what we want to see right here. If we get a, if you can see those numbers, that's 4,000 on everything for the frequency. So it is, in fact, the software is working. So what I'm gonna do now is our review settings were something like 43 or 44x, and you can check the review for exactly what those were. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave this alone at 1.4 for now. And I'm gonna bring the temperature down before I hit apply on this to probably minus 50 or so. I'm gonna set this setting, and then my goal is going to be to just kind of hit and run Cinebench a few times at these settings. And I'm gonna keep bringing the temperature down, and my goal is to find the point at which it crashes. So I'm actually gonna be trying to make it crash. Reason for that is, even with the IF, the Infinity Fabric set to a lower frequency, we'll still run into issues where you hit like a cold bug, I guess, at say minus 100 and something. So in the past, I've had issues at minus 150 or whatever. And so you can change the Infinity Fabric. Right now we're running 1467, I think, but we could go down to 1400 if we have issues getting it colder than, you know, temperatures we want to run it at. So right now we're at minus 39, 40, 45. It's kind of plunging now. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. Hopefully it does not crash. If it does, it doesn't necessarily mean it's unstable. It could just mean that the software is not really interfacing well. I'm going to close all this stuff. Actually, I'm going to open hardware info one more time now that I've closed Command Center and make sure that it still has taken the settings, and it has. So it's 44 all-core right now. We're going to run, and it should be cold enough, unless there's a contact issue, to just kind of run without any management of the LN2 pot for a second. So I'm going to refill one of the thermoses. So we have plenty of liquid nitrogen for this stream and probably a couple others. So this dewar might empty out this stream, but I've got the whole there's probably 150 liters left in there. One thing I'm going to do too is throw some extra insulation on, because I was noticing when pouring that a lot of the liquid nitrogen was kind of bouncing around on the board over on this side near the video card. So I'm just going to throw that right there to catch some of it. Okay. I'm going to put some on the other side where the memory is, since that's the direction it's getting blown. Okay, so the score is in. This is 44, so we've now actually recovered our. We have someone says, "Okay, this is epic." Well, I'm glad to see some people haven't seen this before and are maybe new here or something. Yeah, so it does evaporate. So I think someone asked in chat, and someone else is trying to help out. Okay, yeah. So I mean, this question's common. It's I kind of forget to do the demo every time because a lot of people have seen it now. But Ploith 9000 says, what happens if the nitrogen gets on your arm? So you should kind of know this, look up the safety facts about working with liquid nitrogen if you ever plan on doing it. In terms of me working with it, let me transfer this into something so it's not as overflowing. If you look up the Leidenfrost effect, you'll see what this, like the science behind it. But basically, as long as you're not letting it soak. So if I were to hold my hand like this and then pour Allen 2 into it, that would be very bad. It would be the same as putting your hand on a stove. If you're not letting it soak, you're not letting it sit anywhere, and you just get like a splash, it will roll off. So that actually, I mean, like I can definitely, you feel it, but it's not like it's really hurting me. So you feel the cold from all the vapor, but it rolls off or it instantly evaporates. And that's like, we can kind of show, is there a good spot on the floor somewhere to do that demo? In front of the stand or behind it? In front?
That's good.
So if I pour it on the floor, you're gonna see it just instantly evaporate. So that's kind of, how you step on it, you'll see it kind of come up a little bit too from what's left in there. But yeah, so it'll roll off or evaporate to answer the question of what happens if it gets on my arm. And it does all the time when I'm pouring it, but you just don't let it soak. That's the big thing. And then in terms of oxygen, we're in a big space with ventilation, and there's plenty of room, plenty of oxygen, so we don't need to worry about narcosis or displacing the oxygen in the environment. But obviously you should look into that if you want to get into this. Okay, so yeah, the score did come in for that. And let me see, so 7855. Someone in chat is asking, what temperature is it? Is it cold? It is minus 196 degrees Celsius. It is a little bit cold. It's interesting because it's like when you pour in an Allen 2 pot or something, you put your hand here, you can feel it. And when Joe and I have been doing, Joe from Bearded Hardware, and I have done pre-testing for, say like 12 hours sometimes on systems, you can actually, if you're near the system, you can feel it's a little bit colder. It brings the temperature of everything down a little bit. Okay, so let me write this down. We had a score of 6873 for our LN2 baseline, and then for our non-LN2 settings baseline, it was 7630. So we have surpassed the original baseline with a lower infinity fabric. That's what you want to see. And now we just need to work up to make it all actually worth it. So I'm just going to type down my numbers here. We did 4.4, and that was at about minus 50 to 60. That was 4.4 at 1.4 set voltage. Score was 7855. And I don't think I have any other notes to add to this. So I think that'll set our baseline. Who uses Celsius? Real men use Kelvin. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, add 273.15, I guess, or whatever it is, something like that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess the software's working. That's pretty sweet. At this point, we need to, let's see, is it actually still applied? It should be. I think it's just resetting in the reader here. Okay, it is still applied. Perfect. That's always my biggest issue with this stuff, is if it doesn't apply and you think it is. So yeah, let's go ahead and set like a 46. And what I'm going to do first, oh no, I said I was going to see where the cold issue is. So let's do that actually. That's the most important thing to save us time later. I transfer normally from the larger container into the smaller one. Smaller one's hard to pour into from the dewar, so I don't do straight into there. I transfer into it though because this larger one you'll see builds up a lot of frost on the rim. And what'll happen is over time, when you start pouring it, you'll have some of it like fall off from its own weight into the LN2 pot. Then you get water in the LN2 pot, and now the water sits at the bottom and it creates a barrier between the liquid nitrogen and the copper. And so it doesn't burn as well, or I mean, evaporate as well doesn't do its job really because it's got a layer. It's kind of like how oil and water will separate. So I normally pour from one into the other like this to help manage that, and then also because the mouth of the smaller one's smaller, obviously, so you don't have to worry about over pouring and like getting it all over the VRM and stuff. Okay, I'm just going to keep running this right now at the same settings. There is variance in Cinebench, so expect to see score changes. And all I'm going to do is bring it down as cold as I can before it black screens. Let me see if I can get this to read out for, okay, the stream. So it's going to be a little hard for me to read and also make it possible for stream to read, but let's try and maneuver this over here maybe. So that top number, if it's visible, let me check OBS, is the LN2 pot temperature. When are you guys getting more XL non-zip hoodies? I just ordered them actually. So someone says, wasn't minus 190 too cold for the 3600 XT? It changes. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. Although liquid nitrogen is minus 190, whatever it is, 6 or 8, that doesn't mean that, you know, pouring it in here makes it instantly that temperature. So we've kind of got a ways we can climb. I'm going to keep running this, and we'll see eventually some point it should black screen, and then I'm going to have to hit it with a torch to heat it back up. So currently we're at minus 80-ish, minus 77. How do you game while constantly pouring LN2? We actually have a video that wasn't that popular, but I really liked it, of, I think it was working with a GPU. I think it was a Kingpin card or something. And it was actually gaming with like LN2 clocks. And so we did our full standard gaming benchmark suite with liquid nitrogen. And it was kind of cool to see how it actually performs like outside of synthetics like Cinebench. How it actually performs in games, even though it's still unrealistic. Although in that video, I said all you need is a friend to recruit to pour LN2 like all day or something. Some people thought I was serious, but that's another discussion. So we're at minus 82 right now. I'm going to add some more. Let me take some super chats. It's been a little while since I did those, so I need to catch up on the super chats. Again, thanks to everyone sending super chats, or if you want to get something in return for your money, buying stuff on store.gamersnexus.net, like our new shirts and posters, mod mats are there. The wireframe mouse mat is coming back in August and shipping out, but we have them on back order, so that's what I'm working on right now. But it's a desk length mouse mat with like wireframe component designs and stuff. But yeah, thanks for supporting the stream. That's definitely the best way to make it easy for us to do these in addition to all the other content, because it doesn't really subtract work, it adds it. Okay, so Tim, I got yours, $5 no message. We had, oh, here's one I didn't see yet. Jorge Carranza, $10. Thank you. Says, my PC crapped out after some tech tested the power supply with things still plugged in. Says, your videos have been very helpful in figuring out my next build. And thanks for all you and your team do. I'm sorry they couldn't be helpful in figuring out what was like wrong with that build, but it sounds like you may know the issue if some stuff was not, if the power wasn't correctly managed while it was being undergoing troubleshooting, unfortunately. But absolutely glad that you got some use out of the content. But minus 96 going down to minus 100. Just trying to see when it black screens and crashes. Stepdad D says, hey Steve, you guys should make your next mouse mat to be larger in length. Would love a 36 by 18 or 48 by 22. Color scheme of the current one would fit perfectly, but it's too small. I've definitely thought about it. There are some really interesting logistical challenges. So one of the interesting logistical challenges with things like the mod mat and the mouse mats, the mod mat is exactly like half an inch shorter than the oversized charge. And the oversized charge is massive. So like no one would want to pay it. I don't want to pay it. So mouse mat, same thing. Once you start approaching 48 inches for, I mean, as long as the other dimension is under 27-ish, then it's not an oversized, but you're still going to pay dim weight or just weight, depending on what's worse. But It does add a logistical challenge. That said, I'm interested in doing larger mouse mats, yes. And a by 18 was one of the ones I was thinking about. So not sure when. It would take a while. We'd have to do all the sampling and stuff first. Yara Zabihi said $4.99. When do we see the fantastic Ryzen Metro map on a t-shirt? I'm not really sure how well that would translate to a t-shirt. I don't know. Maybe like an all-over print or something to make that work. That'd be a weird one to see like out of context, and this is a really good fan for this. Just like walking into a supermarket with your chipset poster t-shirt on. I'm not sure how easy that would be to explain to people if they cared to ask, but it works well as a poster. So at minus 100, it's actually, this is running pretty hot right now for the cores, and also my hand is extremely freezing cold in the vapor. Okay, so that was about minus 119 on the meter when it black screened. That's what we're looking for. We wanted it to crash in this case to make it easier later, so I'm not wondering if it was, the reason we're troubleshooting this now is because later on what would happen is I'd change some settings, increase the frequency, increase the voltage, and then it might do this. And then now you're not really sure, okay, was it the settings I applied or was it too cold? So now we're gonna know that's about where we're having issues, at least with the current settings. We're at 1467 for Infinity Fabric. If we bring it down to 1400, maybe it'll be a bit better, and we can try some more SoC voltage too, but what it's going to do now is you're seeing it have trouble recovering here. So what I'm going to do is heat it up with the torch. This is going to be loud. And I'm just going to try and talk over it while it's going so it's not too loud. Let me pick a few questions I can take while we're doing that. Okay. So first thing I do, I guess as a note, is I normally start it pretty low on the setting, like around here. And that's just so I can get it into the LN2 pot without making a giant flame, and also without accidentally torching the insulation on it. So if we wanted to make a flame, it'd be like that, except I have it on a low setting. But we don't want to make a big explosion. So I'm going to heat this up to about minus, I don't know, 80 or so. What does that say? Tugs W, $28, thank you. Says, love the channel, guys. Tech level is perfect from you guys who know their stuff. Well, I'm glad you feel like it's the appropriate level of information. We do face the challenge, though, of as people learn more and more about what they're watching, you have to kind of increase your level too. But that does pull the floor out from under of the beginner audience. It's always a tough balance. Next one is from Stephen Willis, $9.99, thank you. Catching up on some of the super chats a bit. Says, no insult intended, but even though I find some of your videos hard to get through, I love your live streams and your merch. Thanks for being awesome. I'm not going to be insulted at that. The videos are definitely dense, and they are definitely pretty long form. So, I mean, that's just kind of part of the territory of doing it the way we do it. That said, I'm happy to hear that the live streams are able to provide either entertainment or information without, like detracting from anything else that we're doing. I don't know. I kind of want to bring this down to 1400 and see if it serves better, but I also don't like dropping it. Let's try 1467. I'm gonna go ahead and type in a 1.45 VSOC. Do not set that for daily use. It will not be good for your CPU. What are you testing with? 3900 XT is what we're using today. I guess I can go through some of the other parts quickly too. That's good. It looks like it's cooperating now. That was much better than the start of the stream. So X570 Godlike, I was assuming that because this board has been through like a year of really abusive testing, all LN2 for its whole life. So I was thinking that maybe it was shorting out somewhere, including the CMOS, but it was memory auto settings that were not playing well with the board. So X570 Godlike for the board. We are using a 3900 XT. We're using a Der Bauer, I always want to call it Hype Beast, and then I have to remember that it's just called the Beast. So Der Bauer Beast LN2 pot. And these are actually really cool. I think we have a lot of people who haven't really seen too many of these today and here from what I'm seeing in the comments, so we'll show some stuff off we've shown before. But inside the LN2 pot, it's just a bunch of holes drilled in it to increase the surface area. And you've got a couple chambers, like levels, where the LN2 will spread out as it pours in and fills. We're going to try and get a top-down-ish shot of it to give you a better idea. I would try to like rotate it, except it's actually frozen to the CPU right now. But yeah, you can see, I think Andrew might be trying to pick the camera up. So if we drop connection, we'll come back in a second. So that's the LN2 pot. You can see the attempts at increasing surface area are mostly from like milling the holes in and those bumps in the bottom. And let me do a quick pour while we've got a top down. Sorry, Andrew, I need to get more liquid nitrogen. Just so you can see how it spreads out. Okay, let me transfer. So here's how it looks. Evaporates very fast, even when we're not really loading it very much. It's just like gone, which is great. That's what you want to see. You don't really want to see it like sitting there bubbling, because normally that means there's like a barrier of water or something. Okay. So we did find the breaking point on that. It was minus 121 or so. Time to, we might be able to go a bit lower now. I need to talk to hardware numbers some more and try and better understand the temperature of it. Shave the SoC voltage to the minimum. He actually just sent me some messages. Slight change in SoC voltage increases temperature by a lot, so you may lose 8C at full pot. Okay. So I need to learn a little bit more about the temperature sensitivity of, of SoC voltage, or of how SoC voltage affects temperature on the CPU and how it affects our minimum temperature, or maximum temperature, I guess, depending on how you perceive the negative numbers. So we're going to go ahead and just set it to like 4.8 now. That'll get us close to our goal of over 5 gigahertz for today. And I'm going to try to not really change the voltage. So one of the things I want to test out today is the minimum voltage for a given frequency, which means we're going to experience some more black screens in the process. But I'd like to see what level do we need to maintain the voltage in order to get those higher clocks, and can we run, in other words, can we run a lower voltage at, say, like 46 or 48x than we could with the original 3900X. So let's try 1.4. I think that's very low. It might crash, but we'll try it out. I'm going to need to launch hardware info and verify that it actually applied, just because I don't trust any XOC software. So it is applied 48x all core. And if we look at SVI2, we should see 1.4 there as well. And as soon as we run a workload, I'm actually going to leave hardware info this time open, which does mean that the scores will be lower, but we're going to use it to look at some other stats while this is running. So then we'll just rerun it after for the baseline. Temperature's at minus 70. I'm going to bring this down to about minus 100 or so, and we'll just hold it there for a little while. Now, the temperatures we're running do mean that you're reducing power leakage, and we're going to be able to run voltages that are less aggressive than you might with other forms of cooling, and the power consumption will be lower because power leakage is lower because temperature is lower. So not really directly comparable to non-LN2 results, but okay. Grizzer mocked, $5, thank you. Just got the shirt in today. Best of luck for today's stream. and may many Xboxes crumble underneath your hammer. Think the hammer is probably something I have to stay away from because that might be a Joe thing. Joe's not really quite sure some days who he is. He goes by Bearded Hardware, he goes by Tech Odin, and also some reason sometimes brandishes a hammer, which is a Thor thing, even though he's Tech Odin. But I mean, I'm not going to argue with the guy. Have you seen him? Like, he can do whatever he wants. So 8514 is actually a very good score despite having software running in the background. Where did you meet that slacker Joe? I met him at the Intel, was that the 99 or the 8700? I think I met him at the 8700K event in New York City. We did a video, actually 2 videos with him of extreme overclocking, and then found out he lives within driving range, and so he would just drive out here and we did some streams. Okay, so what I need to look at is I want to keep an eye on, we're just going to run this, doesn't need to finish even, but I just want to keep an eye on what this drops to. So 1.4 set is what we have, and we're dropping to, with LLC mode 4, we're dropping to 1.344 volts for SVI2 TFN. So 1.35 volt get for 4.6 seems pretty damn good, but I know that we could run it closer to 1.3 for some of our XT CPU, or sorry, this is 4.8, isn't it? We were running 4.6 for some of our review units, like 3600 XT with voltages approaching 1.3 volts get, which is really good compared to previous iterations. But this one we're doing 1.35 so far, and this says 38, but if you look in hardware info, it's actually 48. So 4.8 gigahertz, 1.35 seems pretty damn good to me. Let's see if it'll do 4.9 at the same voltage. If it can, I'll be kind of surprised. I'm expecting a crash here, but that would be really good silicon quality if so. So let's bring this down to minus 100 again so we can keep it kind of consistent run to run for these. I just chose that number because it's a round number that's easy to remember, so we can just keep it around that point. It is going to warm up a little bit each run. So we'll see it like get to minus 90 or 80 something. I think we're a little bit below minus 100 when I started the last one. It was about 102. So that's what that's going to be. Let's run that. And we are ignoring score right now because I'm kind of being inconsistent on what software I have open. For example, this time I've closed hardware info. Last time it was running, so they wouldn't really be directly comparable. But we're just going to pay attention to does it survive. If it does, then so far the volt frequency is crazy good. Bryce Smith, have you ever used Mayhem's Biocide to clean aluminum? Want to expand a busted custom AIO? No, I have not used it. I'm not familiar with theirs at all. Okay. Where's the super chats I stopped on? Okay. Jack, $5. Would you ever consider doing monitor testing? Tons of sites and tech tubers do so, but none do so in a wholly accurate and objective manner. Consider yes. We've looked into it. We've spoken to people at like the DisplayPort group and other display technology foundations, and I'm confident we could do it, but it's a time issue where right now I'm more interested in doing thermal testing with coolers, thermal interfaces. No one really does those quite like the way we are, and I feel like we can provide a lot of value there more immediately, and then I want to get into fans as well. So with all that stuff, monitors isn't on my agenda right now. Okay, so hardware info is closed for that. That is a crazy good volt frequency so far. So 4.9 was that? Was that 4.9 or was that 4.8? I think that was 4.9. That was 4.9 all core. So 4.9 minus 100, and I'm just writing down 1.4 set, 1.35 get, and then score was 8732. Okay, 1467 still on IF. What's the results this XT worth the overclock? I think I so in the review we talk about it, but it's not really worth buying the XT series in general unless you're into like more enthusiast type overclocking stuff. Okay, so yeah, 4.9, and man, this MSI software, despite being clunky earlier when I was figuring it out, I'm glad we have it because this is working a lot easier than what I was dealing with before with all the reboots. So we're gonna try 50X and maintain that 1.4 set, which is gonna be about 1.35 in the SVI2 reading and hardware info. It does read 5. Now we're gonna close that and run it at minus 100, so I need to bring it down. Let me take a super chat question while I'm doing that. What up, fool? Want an Alder Lake S CPU sample? Yes. Email tips@gamersnexus.net if you have one. Okay, so let me take some super chats while I do this next pour. Dave Leviathan Prim, good to see you back. I don't know that you've missed a stream in a very long time, or ever maybe. I see EVGA has replaced the PSU Steve power supply that we have a label on that says Steve. Also picked up the PC component shirt the other day. Thank you for picking up one of the shirts. And as for the PSU, I stopped using that Corsair one. The AX1600i is very good in an objective sense, but also for this stuff, I've had issues with it where it's just too smart for its own good, like a lot of the smart electronics, where sometimes it's nice to just have something stupid, like the EVGA power supply. 1600 T2 has never, ever had an issue for me that I can remember that relating to like OCP. And the Corsair one tries to be smart enough to protect you when you really don't want it sometimes because you're trying to overclock. So that's why I replaced it for these streams. So bring it down another 10 degrees. I want about minus 102 is where I've been hitting start. Minus 101, we're gonna miss it by a degree, I think. That's about right, okay, cool. So 1.4 set, oh, there we go. That's starting to look like it is not stable. So this is a Cinebench application errors pop up. Normally, once the overclock, it's no longer good, but it didn't black screen. I think if we started that again, it would probably do the exact same thing. So we're gonna need to increase Vcore. Next one, Glock, Coma, clever, $2. Would you do a tutorial video of, oh, there we go, blue screen, of OC3800X on MSI BIOS? So, what did I use? I used the Gigabyte Master last time. Fortunately and unfortunately, but mostly fortunately in this instance, the motherboards for AMD do have the entire AMD overclocking tab that's created and provided by AMD, so it doesn't change. So that aspect would be the same in all the boards. The rest of the menus, normally stuff is like moved around and renamed, but it's all the same stuff. It's just you got to find it, or it has a different name. But they're mostly in the same like power settings or like VRM settings or whatever, memory settings. It's kind of all obvious once you poke around a little bit. So the point of saying all that is you can check out like our 2-hour stream on the X570 Master with a 3600 XT. It's going to exact same process as the 3800X, except different CPU, but the same trial and error. And that should more or less point you in the right direction. It's just going to be a different menu to navigate, but it's the same stuff. Okay. Let's try and do this at, what were we? We were trying 50. So let's try 50 again. I'm going to try to not increment this too much. I also don't want to pull the temperature down too much because I'm trying to maintain about the same spot. Let's do 1.425. See if we can handle that at 50. That'll be set voltage. We're going to need to check hardware info, verify it applied. Let's see, got some store orders in, thank you again. So we've got the wireframe mouse mats are on back order. They are shipping in August, it's looking like. We're actually a little ahead of schedule on that, but the dates for that are listed on the site. We ordered a lot of them, I thought several months worth of them for the first round and sold out in 48 hours. So they've been on back order, but the next round comes in about a month at this point. So that is on store.gamersnexus.net if you want to pick up the wireframe mouse mat, or you can pick up the shirt, like the PC component shirt. So it is at 5 gigahertz. That's good. Got an order from Todd in Alberta. Calgary, actually. Calgary is awesome. I want to go back there. Picked up an X570 chipset Metro poster. Thank you. A couple others. We had one from John in Pennsylvania. Picked up 2 of the GN logo shirts. We've got one from Diego in Mexico. Picked up a wireframe mouse mat. Thank you, Diego. Let's see. One more, maybe. Like I said, no guarantees I'll get your name, but I'll try and shout them out. Chris in, looks like Missouri, picked up a GN logo shirt and a GPU disappointment shirt. That's a very popular one. Okay, so it is 5 gigahertz. It is not at minus 100 degrees. I should have done that, but we're going to see if it survives anyway. Nope. In that case, I'm glad it wasn't colder, because it's going to make it easier to boot back in. I don't want it to be too cold when I'm trying to boot. What's the chat saying? Oh, funny. Someone says Derbauer just clocked an 8350 to 7.25 gigahertz. That's an old CPU, and scored 174 single core. And they said an i3 can do that. That's about right. Yeah, that's wasn't a good CPU. Yeah, apparently even at 7.5 gigahertz, 7.25 gigahertz, still not a great CPU. That's funny. I don't think I've actually overclocked one of those in a very long time. Okay, so we were not stable at 50. Let's go ahead and set Vcore first this time and bring the temperature down. And then I'm going to set the clocks. I'm bringing it down to about minus 100. Okay. That is about minus 100. And let's do 1.5. Well, I don't know. I don't really want to skip that much if we're trying to find the lowest stable. Let's apply at 1.45. Let's do that. And then 50x. Apply. Close. And bring this down another 10 degrees. And then we'll run it again and see if it can do 5 gigahertz at 1.45 volts. We could just blast it and see what the max it'll do is, but there is a lot of value in knowing the tolerance of the silicon as it, as you bring the voltage down and the frequency up for these revision chips like this one, which is basically what this series is. It's about 1 degree cooler than I want it to be, but see if that survives. Don't know that it will. Our tool sets on back order. No, we don't have those on back order right now. We do have them being made. I don't remember if they're done or if they're getting shipped or if they're getting made right now. We're expecting those to arrive also. It might be like September or something like that, but they're not on back order because I don't have a firm date yet. Those we made some changes to. They're pretty cool, actually. I'm really excited about it because we were able to get rid of 10 single-use plastic bags out of that by doing some changes to the manufacturing process. So that's pretty cool, but we do not have them yet. But they are getting made. I'm gonna try 1.475 this time. 50x once again. Fortunately, that crash was not a black screen. It just, the application just quit. So it's easy to deal with. Let's see, let's run that. And try and catch up on actually, I'll take this question first. Anzac RC asks, so because of the Leidenfrost effect, LN2 won't short stuff, ? So the reason it won't short stuff is because it's not like we're dealing with water. It's not going to create a circuit between 2 points. The real problem you run into with LN2 is that it more or less can kind of create water, in the sense that you see all the frost gathering around, the LN2 pot, and over time you get frost on the containers. And so what you'll have happen is with the LN2 pot, with the containers, actually underneath the board, it's not that bad right now, but you get a kind of like a big icicle underneath the board that forms like that, and it's just all frozen. So what'll happen is, let's say we have a series of crashes where we end up needing to heat it up with the torch, to bring it back up to a temperature where it'll boot again. And that happens, you start melting the ice, and then that obviously turns to water. But I'm not really worried about shorting it out because I've coated the board in Vaseline, which acts as insulation. It's a barrier against the water. So if we do have, let's say, some of this frost fall down, land on the board, hopefully it lands on Vaseline, which I've got mostly everywhere. And if it does that, it'll melt and you'll get a dot of water on top of that, but it's not connecting two circuits, so you're not going to short anything. So that's, no, the liquid nitrogen itself is not going to short anything, but the water that is derived from it can, and as long as you insulate it, you're okay. Okay. So let me take a few super chats to get caught up here, and then we'll try the next run. We're at about 5 gigahertz now. We're just trying to find the lowest stable voltage if you're just joining, but I need to catch up on these. So let's see, we stopped at, I think it was Leviathan Prim. Leviathan, okay. We got Glaucoma, we got, oh, Fernando, we got yours. Aerospace, 2 to left. $5. A bit off topic. Do you know why all NVIDIA cards get plus 15 degrees and double idle power usage on dual monitor setups when you go above 120 hertz? No, because I wasn't aware that was a thing, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm aware that NVIDIA and AMD both, but NVIDIA especially, does some screwy stuff with multi-monitor. I wasn't aware of specifically that, so if I find time and 2 120 hertz monitors, which we definitely have one, but that I can maybe look into it. If you look at NVIDIA's patch notes and the drivers, though, it seems like every revision they're talking about multiple monitor setups, so they definitely know this is a thing. So, who's next? Fluffy Waffy 17, thank you for the $5. Did you ever decide if you'll review the Lian Galahad AIO? Yes, I do think I'll review that one. I've got the Liquid Freezer 360 in that I want to work on first, so I'll keep an eye on chat talking about this. But a lot of people really liked the 280 review, and then EK came out with a closed loop liquid cooler and AIO that was actually really good. And the one we reviewed for them was a 360 and a 240. So 360 slightly topped over the Arctic liquid freezer. And so now we want to test the liquid freezer 360 and see if they can take it back from EK or if they level out. So that's going to be first, and then we're going to work on the Galahad probably after that. It's funny how many people like the monitor we're using here. Like, it's not. I should go talk to Gigabyte and like tell them, hey, you should maybe run some ads for this one because people always ask about it. Oh my God, what is on that CPU? Great question. It's a giant piece of copper that has ice on it. That's what's on the CPU right now. Just a big copper heatsink that we pour liquid nitrogen into. Okay, let me take the next one. Thomas F, $10, thank you. Just replaced by delidded 8086K 1.39 volts to a 9900KF with 1.37 volts. That's pretty good. On a Maximus 10 Apex, and the temperatures have risen from 68 to 88 degrees. At least I'm future-proof gaming for now. I mean, it's a different die. Yes, and the IHS, if I remember correctly, is a little different. It's been a long time since I looked at the 8000 series, but things to look at maybe would be the voltage you're getting out of it. You said delidded though. If you didn't delid the new one, then that's kind of expected, unfortunately. How to read, that's a good question that we won't get to technically till later, but I just saw it pop up. A person, $2, how to read faded part numbers on MOSFETs. Take some thermal paste, like a really tiny amount, and dot it on, and then like push it around, smear it with your finger, and it should kind of find its way into the engraving and the MOSFET surface. And then you can maybe wipe over it with rubbing alcohol on a cloth, but not too hard, and that should leave it legible. So let's try again, bring this back down to minus 100, and then we'll do 50x with a slightly higher voltage. So our current objective is test the lowest voltage we can run 5.0 for the CPU. The next one will be the maximum frequency we can run. I'm gonna do 50. We were at 1.4, not 8 last time, so let's just do 1.4. Let's call it 1.5. 1.5. Apply. Okay, let's apply. Oh, I just saw a change in base clock, I think. Let's double check that. No, that's all okay. All right, 100.0 and then 5 gigahertz. So cool it down about 9 degrees to minus 100. What's the FPS on Fortnite? Actually, probably not that good because of how we're bringing down Infinity Fabric right now, but it could be made better, but not the way it is right now. You'll actually often see performance decay. It's a little too cold, but that's okay. See performance decay if you're running clocks that don't quite make up for the IF drop, and then you really need to get into memory tuning too. Okay. JMill Customs, $10. Never missed your live streams. Thanks for all the content. Been trying to buy a toolkit and a 4x2 mod mat for a while now. Can't wait till they're back in stock. The mod mats will be back in stock end of August, I think is our current timeline. Those just went through some of the initial shipping process, so that was stable. So that's good. We got a number in. Toolkits will be a little bit later, so you may end up having to pick them up separately, but obviously we're always doing our best to try and get them all lined up. It's really difficult too. Okay, so this setting was 5.0 and 1.5 set. Let me double check on what we're getting out of that in SVI2, TFN, and hardware info. So we're gonna pop that up, and here is SVI2 TFN. I'm gonna bring this back down. Well, it shouldn't really matter unless it crashes, but it shouldn't really matter. 88, 82 is what I need to remember to write down. I'm gonna look at this number. I'm gonna write down 88, 82 for that. I'm doing my best to keep up with chat, super chat, and the store shout outs. So I'm catching up to the super chats if you haven't heard yours yet. Someone asks, what are the mod mat sizes? They are, the 4x2 is the one that I have on the table here. It says 4 feet by 2 feet. Sorry, I'm working in Freedom units right now, and actually it did end up crashing. And then the medium mat that we have is, I think, also out of stock right now, but it is coming back in the same time as the large. That one's 32 by 16 inches for that size. And I see all the, I see like, Tom Kavulik, I'll get yours quickly. $50. Steve, why are tater tots the superior form of fried potato? You ask an excellent question, and one which has been tested over millennia. And I think the answer is it has to be because of the convenience of unhealthy food to effort invested ratio is going to be my best guess on that. It's slightly less effort to consume than a French fry. However, it contains at least as much sodium. So that's my best guess. Also, Joe would be very angry if I said they weren't. And you will not like him when he's angry. I think we want to try this again at minus 100, and then just look at get. I missed it because I was taking a super chat. I don't think it was the potato one though, so obviously it couldn't have been that important if it wasn't about forms of potato. Potatin, I think, is the plural. So minus 100. All right, let's run this again. And even if it crashes, I just need to read what it says before it does. 1.437. Really? That's it? That's pretty damn good. 1.437 is very good for 5 gigahertz. No, I probably didn't skip your question, Sean D. I'm still like about an hour back right now. I'm about to go through a bunch of them. 3900 XT stream. That's really good. So it did crash, but we had one stable run in there. Let me take a couple of these and then get back into it. So in the super chats, let's see, we had Toys Are for Boys back in 666 as usual, which is exactly the right amount for Iron Maiden references. Here's 666 in Canadian to keep the evil out of your overclocking. At least that's how I think it works, Toys Are for Boys says. I'm not sure. Normally, I think the number is used to summon evil, but I'll take it. Cosmic Drew, I assumed my 3900X was XT-like. 4.6 to 4.45 CCX is 1.3 volts until I ran Handbrake and Ableton. Not familiar with the latter one. Surprising how many games are stable though. Have you seen this before? Is this just true for Zen 2? No, that's just like true basically always. So applications like Handbrake, especially if they run a longer time, Handbrake, Blender, which is AVX capable. Prime doesn't really count, but it's a stability test that people like to do. Folding at home would count. Stuff like that, it tends to create failures where games don't. So sometimes in our reviews, you'll see in our charts that the overclock numbers may be 100 megahertz higher for the games than it is for the production stuff, and it's for that reason. So we try to level it out to all the same number, but due to time, sometimes we run it that way. So yeah, that's normal. That's also why you'll see people online, and this is important for like everybody watching. If you see people post about their frequencies and voltages they run their CPUs at, and you're kind of wondering, did I just get screwed with bad silicon? The answer is probably that those people aren't testing with the same thing you are. So if you're going in it trying to get 24/7 prime stable, or trying to get 24/7, I actually use my computer for other things than gaming stable, that's going to be a different number than gaming stable. And our viewpoint is that it doesn't really count if it's not stable in like production applications that are more intensive. But also, if you play games only, then maybe that's kind of valid. It's just that at some point you're going to hit a game where it's not stable, and then people think that there's actually been degradation of silicon, when in fact it's normally as simple as the game was loading it differently. Hopefully that helps answer the question. Josh Hops, no message, but thank you anyway. Nick Mosley, $5. I built some AMD systems. We're about 1 hour back on the super chats, but it won't take me long to get through a bunch of them. I built some AMD systems recently, and I noticed all 3 of them are defaulting to cool and quiet. Is this a new BIOS thing or what? My system never did. Cool and quiet's been in there for a long time. It's an old AMD feature. I'm not sure about defaulting. I don't know if it's always done that, but I've also noticed that it is at least set to auto a lot of the time. I'm not sure. I think auto means enabled in most of the BIOSes. I really wish they would just do enabled or disabled, not auto, because it doesn't really help, but I think that is expected. Mustangs by Matt, good to see you back. $10 says, I'm filming an oil catch can installation tonight, so I'll catch the upload later. Well, there's the obvious plug by Mustangs by Matt. I guess if you're interested in cars, Mustangs by Matt has sent us some cool like car drives that have been riddled with bullets and things, but I think he does a car channel too. Says, I'd like to collab on some technological disimprovement before I go overseas. Can I send an email? Sure, yeah, I mean, I'll keep an eye out for it. Technological disimprovement should be pretty easy. Normally, you can just start taking things out of the computer. Denver 1G1. Don't have a silver bullet, but on the 12 or so with BIOS problems, oh, this is referring to the systems earlier that this person was talking about. With BIOS problems, a pain because of distance between work sites, a combination of pulling RAM and using the CMOS jumper for 15 seconds seems to work. I completely agree. That almost always seems to fix it for us. I'm going to get back to this stuff in a second. I'm just catching up on the super chats. We try to interact with everybody as best we can. iManny99. Are you going to review the O11 Dynamic Mini? Do you think it can hold two 240 rads, 45 mil thick, plus fans? They have specified that information. I think we talked about it in a news video even, but I don't have it memorized. So that should be out there. As for us reviewing it, almost certainly. I don't know that we won't do any ITX testing, but we will do ATX testing it because it can fit it anyway. Matt DeBoer, not to be confused with Der Bauer. $10. Ryzen Master shows my 3900X runs at like 1.4V stock. Is that damaging? Should I offset it? I don't really know exactly what 1.4 volts in Ryzen Master means or where you're reading it. So first thing I would do is run a consistent workload. Cinebench R20 is great because it's free. You just run it, same thing every time. Run that while you're looking at the number, not idle. So when there's current being applied, and then see what it reads out in this in hardware info. So depending on the board, this will be a little bit different, but generally it's close enough. What you're looking for is CPU core voltage SVI2 TFN. See what that number reads instead of Ryzen Master. As far as it damaging, I mean, for stock, I'd probably like to run it under 1.4. Is it damaging? I don't know. It's like everybody has different opinions on that, but I would probably try to run it a little under that, yes. I may take, let's do like 5 or 6 more of these and then get back into the OC stuff. Daniel Silva, good luck overclocking tonight. Thanks. So far, I'll take this opportunity to recap for people who have joined recently. Our full stock, complete stock, everything, including Infinity Fabric, our score is 7630 points. Then we had to drop Infinity Fabric for purposes of LN2 overclocking. So we lost 1,000 points to 6873. We immediately regained that and surpassed the original score with a simple 4.4 all core. You can do it without LN2. 1.4 volts set for that, so like 1.3 something get. 1.35, I think. And that was 7855. Then we went to 4.9, 1.4 volts set, 135 get. That was 8732. So, I mean, that's really good scaling on the voltage. I was happy with that. 5.0, we're at like 1.5 volts set, which is a very low 1437 get. Okay. So, take one more. We had Stabby McStabwood, $10, says, Steve, hey Steve, we have a video for that. Burke, love what you do. I've been out of PC building since my last build in 2013. They say, thanks for getting me back up to speed, building my son's first PC tonight. That's awesome. Enjoy. I think right now is a very good time to get into it because there's a ton of stuff. The hardest part about it is accessibility of components because the inventory is kind of bad. But that's awesome. Lars Hansen, I'm going to take this one and then move on to overclocking, and then we'll get back to it later. DKK50, we've caught up pretty nicely here. Any NVIDIA Ampere rumors you want to share? I actually probably know less about NVIDIA Ampere than anyone reading rumors because I don't pay attention to them. So I'm not under any agreements with NVIDIA right now. We don't have any special information, so I don't actually, beyond what we've talked about in the news segments as rumors, we don't actually know anything special. That has warmed up a lot, minus 50 degrees. So let's bring it back down to minus 100. Now that we've found our minimum stable voltage at 5.0, which was a 1.5 set, 1.437 get, I think, SVI2. Next goal is going to be maximum clock at like whatever voltage, kind of feel like doing. So let's go ahead and try setting it to like 51. Let's try 5100, and let's do a 1.55 Vcore. We'll bring it up to 1.7 later, hopefully, if the software works. Apply. And while that's applying, there's a bit of a latency on clicking the button. I'm going to dump liquid nitrogen all over my hand in the streaming system, and then bring it down a little colder. So it should crash at like minus 120 unless some of the settings I've changed have helped. Which means we're going to try and avoid that for now. We are going to need to get it colder though if we're going up to 1.7. Okay, so that should be applied. Let's double check hardware info. Let's get Cinebench launched. And just make sure it's 51 all core. And it is, okay. I'm going to go ahead and send a tweet out to just let everyone know we're still going and give an update on where we are. So currently at 5.1 gigahertz, all core on the 3900 XT. Come join the live stream and check out the progress. People always comment in the stream about how it's weird to hear a tweet be typed and then see it pop up on their screen. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. I am going to, it's at 51, so that's good. It's at 1.55 set. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down as cold as I can without it crashing for the settings we currently have. I'm going to try like minus 115 or something. And I'm going to need to click start right away, but I can't see the screen. Okay. Probably take a power reading at some point too, just for fun. Any discount codes for the store? Not tonight. I do run them sometimes during the streams. That's a good question. I haven't done one for a little while, but I don't have one up there tonight. So that wasn't stable. I'm gonna try and bring it down a little colder and then run that again with the same settings. Let's see if it lets us do minus 120 without blacking out. Nope, it certainly does not. So we're gonna go ahead and do like a 1.6 volts or something. I'm just gonna torch this. I'll take a super chat while I'm doing that because it is loud, so it'll allow me to talk over it a bit. Let's see. Okay, so what is this one? Dynamuda ist, well actually it doesn't say ist. It switches to like English. Is doof. 10 GBP. Hey, different topic. Sent a super chat end of last live stream regarding PBO recap video. Found out about an EDC bug, got it sorted. I do remember that message. Now PBO and EDC equals 1, 3950X, crosshair 8 impact. 32 gigabytes, 3800 C14, that's pretty good. R20 is 10,105. And then R15 scores 4515. That's pretty good. Nice. Yeah, good work on the memory tune. It's always cool to see people work, like playing along, overclocking the system either during or after the streams, because we often hear about the improvement that you all get. Let's see. Really looking for a micro ATX case for a new Ryzen build. What would you recommend? I really need good airflow since I live in a tropical climate mostly all year round. Micro ATX, maybe like an NR 400 with extra fans would be worth considering. Hopefully that helps. That would be one I would look at. Kind of like the NR 600 but smaller. They do typically need extra fans added though. So I just hit the reset button on this. We heated it up. It should be able to boot now. Tom's Cigars. I don't understand this reference. And I'm not sure if I should read it or not for that reason. So I'm going to move on. Sean D, you asked earlier if we skipped yours. Sean D, $10. So once you find the limit for the whole chip, will you then try to push each individual CCD a bit further to test the theory of dual CCD chips getting one lesser bend and one stronger? I think that's probably among all of the theories that people have about like CPU quality. I think that's probably one of the most reasonable ones. I don't know that we'll be testing that tonight, but that is something I want to do. I like to do per CCX stuff too. But we will probably not be going down that path tonight. Let's do, was I trying 51? And then let's do like 1 point, maybe 6. And where's SOC? It's like 1.5. Don't apply these settings on yours. Apply. I don't know how it's gonna like these settings, but we definitely need to bring it down more. We're at 1467 for Infinity Fabric right now. Okay. So, bring this down some more. Okay, so we're gonna bring this down to like minus 110, minus 115. and see if it'll run with these higher voltages than we had before. It's minus 100 right now. Let's see. Super chat. I need Alan too. Tommy Pearson says, Steve, I'm curious if you're planning to make a collage shirt with people you've worked with, like Jay, Linus, Der Bauer, all in the same shirt. I am not planning to do that. Probably each of those people would also need to be paid for that. So I don't think that would be a cheap shirt, but I am not planning to do that now. I don't I feel like the best opportunity for something like that might be LTX, but Linus would run into the same problem probably. Okay, so we're just gonna bring it to like minus 110, 115. The best thing we got for a collage shirt is the one I'm wearing. It's also on the pole over there, but the new PC Component shirt, but it does not have the faces of known YouTubers on it. Okay, let's go ahead and, oh, is it frozen? Maybe it cold bugged out a little earlier this time. Oh, we lost IO. So it's not liking those settings. So far we've done 5 gigahertz. Go ahead and restart. Hopefully I don't need to heat it up for this. Okay, so rebooting. Let me catch up on some stuff. Okay. Let's do... I don't want to bring Infinity Fabric down, but that might help a little bit. This is where having a little bit more expertise would help because we're at the edge of what's working and not. I think it could push higher if I knew a little bit more, but I'm gonna do the best with the knowledge I have. So core voltage, I don't know, 1.6 it didn't really seem to like, but let's try it. Let's do like, leave that at 145 I guess. Change this to like 1.85. Oh, okay, didn't even actually click apply. So that might be condensation only once you start seeing that. That's typically what that is. Because it bugged out before I did anything. Okay, let me catch up on super chats for a second here, just in case I have to tear down the bench, but we'll see. Actually, I'll recap quickly for anyone who's wondering. So our latest score is 5.0, 5 gigahertz at just 1.437 volts for that, really good. And that's 8882 for the score, 8,882 was the score on that one. Decapitan says, when are we going to be able to use dedicated RTX cards akin to the PhysX cards of old? I don't really know that NVIDIA wants to go down that path. Like, have you seen how they've treated PhysX and SLI? I don't know. It's definitely a thing that they could have done, but I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong. It's not going to be this generation, though, probably. But Stepdad D, sign me up for bigger mouse mats as well as a Tech Jesus t-shirt. Bigger mouse mat, definitely on the list. Leo, $5. Hey Steve, great to see you streaming again. Well, thanks for stopping by and checking it out. I like doing these. They are normally challenging towards the end like this once we're starting to approach the limits of stability, but we've gotten pretty far though. I'm gonna try actually just a 5.0 and 1.5 for Vcore and see if it freaks out, just to kind of see where we're standing right now for the system's overall stability. Needs to be about 10 degrees cooler. Okay, that should do that. Close that out. Let's run CPU. Next one, Fire 2 Box. Steve, your GN store is shipping out product quick. even taking Amazon Prime longer to send me an Echo Dot spying unit. That is also how I would describe those. Yeah, I mean, we certainly don't advertise that we'll beat Prime because Amazon has all of the money in the world. But right now they have been running behind on a lot of items, so I'm glad to hear that you're able to get the stuff quick. Although I don't know about the Echo Dot spine unit. Mike Hammer, will GN ever make ratings for best AIO cases instead of air, or the noise normalized temps mostly affected from the same versus an AIO? So closed loop liquid coolers are incredibly, it's not even like difficult, it just doesn't really work for case testing because look at how close this was. I'll get back to that in a second. There's like 4 tiles. Oh no, there's a couple at the top, but look at how close that was to finishing. If I kept pouring, it might have worked. So CLCs mount in different places in every case. Some have better compatibility than others in the front. You get into a question of where does it really go, and then if there's fans that are stock, what do you do with them? What's a reasonable mix of real user scenario and good data? And then you also run into problems. Well, not even that. It's just for the most part, the hierarchy should be about the same. The thing that'll change with closed loop liquid coolers, if you mount it in the front one case versus the top and the other, the one in the front's probably going to perform better if you're doing like intake front or exhaust top. So in a like for like scenario, they should scale pretty similarly to the air-cooled tests. And to that end, it's always back to the philosophy of what are you doing with the data? How are you trying to read it? And how you should be trying to read review data isn't really, for the most part, in absolute numbers. Like FPS, you shouldn't really care if it's 152 and the other one is 147. What you should compare about is what's the percent difference. Because the actual numbers will change game to game and platform to platform. So it's like interpreting the data is more important than the actual numbers, the raw numbers that come out of it. 8907. So that's actually a little bit higher than last time. So that was stable again. That's good. I try boosting that up to 5100 once again. Oops, not 510. That would be a lot of megahertz. 51,000 megahertz. Let's do 1.55 if it can. Oh, mouse is disappearing a little bit. Apply that. And what's the next question? Evocati Productions. Glad I was able to catch the stream today. There's more. 1 sec. Or is it? Did you get yourself an Optimus block sample? Not yet. I agree with you that on the next line, that we'd like to do some testing on it. I have not gotten one yet. I haven't reached out to them yet. But it's on the infinite list of things to do for sure. Definitely really interested in those Optimus blocks. I feel like our build to my right here with that 1260 millimeter radiator, I feel like that was limited. Oh no, I was trying to start it before it got too cold. I feel like that was limited by the water block more than anything else. So I'm looking forward to trying to get better blocks and try it out. Let's see. I think we really need to be colder to make this work, and I don't know exactly the trick we need to be doing for that. Best thing in my head is dropping F-clock. I know there's other stuff, but let's see. I'm still waiting for my Optimus to do testing as well, Dale Johnson says. If I get it first, would you like me to send it to test? I appreciate that. We'll get one from them directly. I definitely appreciate that, though, because sometimes we can't. And in those cases, the answer would always be yes. And we do pay for shipping and stuff like that both ways. But in this instance, it's going to be close. I don't need to heat it up so it doesn't crash. In this instance, I should be able to get one. So as soon as it finishes, I'm going to hit it with a torch. And the reason for that is because I had just poured LN2 in there. It was at minus 119, which is the threshold where we were having crashing issues earlier. It's the first time it passed, I think, at 51. So that's awesome. And you write this score down before it goes away. 9062. So that's cool. I was, during that run, I was being more careful about keeping up a stable temperature, so minus 119. But then I just poured, and the bench was coming to an end. So what'll happen is the temperature will plunge really hard because you've still got LN2 in the pot, but the workload's ending. So the CPU stops generating heat. So then we would black screen. So I shoved the torch in there and brought it back up. So let me just verify that was at 51. We need hardware info for that. That was at 51. Cool, nice. That was at only 1.55 set. That's good. So we saw some progress here. LN2 5.1. That was the number I wanted to hit when we started. So we've done that. That was at minus 119. At 51, 1.55 set. And then there's a score. Cool. Nice, that's pretty good. I'm glad we were able to hit 51 because that's the number that I was not sure we'd be able to get to today. Let's try like 5170. Oh, no, that's not how you type that in. 51.75. And let's try and leave that alone. Bring it down to minus 119. Let me take a super chat while I'm doing that. Still catching up on these, but we are not as behind as we were. So, let's see. Wishbone. Good to see Wishbone back. I don't see any beetles on the screen. Tisk tisk. Yes, so Wishbone is a regular of ours to the streams and wants us to test Beetle Adventure Racing. That's what it's called, right, Andrew? Which, for the longest time when Wishbone asked for this, I thought it was referring to an N64 game that was actually about beetles like the bug. And then I later realized it was about Volkswagen Beetles. And it was a promotional game that they made, which made it a lot less exciting. But Wishbone has been requesting that we benchmark it for a long time now. So 5175 did not hold it, black screened out, and let it reboot. Someone says, I'm actually surprised that the live caption's working. Let's see. How are they? This is always fun. So it currently, the captions are saying, to an N64 game that was actually about Beetles, and later I realized it was about Volkswagen. It missed the rest of that, but that's pretty good. Oh, Beetles. And some promotional game that they made, a lot less exciting, but Wishbone has been requesting that we benchmarking for a long time now, so want 75 to do screen no doubt, let it reboot. Someone actually says surprised captions are working. This is like 50%, not too bad. It's good for a little while. I think it's probably going to start losing quality of the translation as it gets into reading the captions. How do you get a real-time history to create graphs? Hardware info is a good way to do that. Okay, well. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's actually still pretty accurate on the captions. Okay, let me check some of the orders and stuff for a second. And we'll try 5175 again. So we had a couple more orders come in. Thank you to those of you who are buying things on store.gamersnexus.net, supporting what we do here for the live streams. In addition to all of the uploads, definitely one of the best ways to do it and get something in return. So we had Russell from Tennessee picked up the PC component shirt in Midnight Navy, which is this one. It's the new shirt that we posted last week. And then also picked up a Cobalt Blue teardown pint glass, which is this one here with the gold rim. I was just looking at it because I remembered the last time I picked this up recently was to catch a spider. And I was pretty sure I let it outside, but I wanted to make sure. So there's that. But Russell picked up one of those. Thank you, Russell. Let's see. Raymond just placed an order like this second in California. Picked up a large mod mat autographed. Thank you for buying one of those. Like I said, those are expected in August, probably end of August for those, and then we'll start shipping them out to all of you. Those have been out for a little while now. The demand was really high and manufacturing capability was low during the beginning of the year. Matthew in Illinois picked up a PC component shirt. Thank you, Matthew. There's actually, I'll read the most recent ones here. There's only maybe like 4 more I should get through here. Kevin from Quebec picked up a mod mat as well. Thank you, Kevin. Let's see, do these for this group. Dustin in Ohio grabbed a wireframe mouse mat. Thank you, Dustin. And Gino in California grabbed PC component shirt. Let's do 2 more. Matthew in Indiana picked a lot of US orders today. Picked up, I guess, time zone. X570 chips at Metro poster, which we've just gotten another run in. Those are on the wall back there too. And then we got one from Daniel who picked up a PC component shirt. Okay, so let's try like 5175 again. 1.58-ish volts. Let's see if it may not like that number I just typed in. I don't know if that's like breaking floating point or what it's doing is frozen. Well, it didn't like typing in that number. Didn't apply it. Just was on the process, like working towards applying it. Okay, let's restart that. Try that again. I'm gonna drop the IF to 1400 just to see if it helps out for a final push, maybe. Probably see some score decay though. Evocati Productions. You might have considered this already, but what program are you using to OC today? Looks interesting. Yes. Oh, might have covered. Sorry. Yeah, we did cover that. It is. I think it's called MSI like Command Center Lite or something. I'll check when I get back in. Interesting is the right word for it. It is actually working pretty well right now. I had issues with it earlier, but it is for sure much more cooperative now than it was before. So I just dropped the IF down to 1400. That should help us try and get that final push. Maybe, if we can get it colder anyway. That's really the limit I'm running into right now. Travis, $10. Love the content. This fall is going to be crazy with all the new hardware coming out. And I'm pumped to watch you guys cover it all. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. Yeah, this fall is looking extremely busy. GPUs are going to be popular, I think. That's going to be like the thing to do for a while. It was CPUs the first half of the year, so kind of expected, but GPUs can often be a little bit more difficult to cover because they push out so many more of them since NVIDIA is involved. So here's the software that was mentioned. This is MSI Command Center Lite. You can get it on some overclocking forums if you search that name. For the X570 Godlike, it's in those threads. This was found for me by both Buildzoid and Hardware Numbers. Actually pulled it out of the forum archives for me. That's worked pretty well so far. Issues at the start were mostly relegated to applying the numbers, and then you kind of figure out how to work with it, and it works okay. Mostly, I think I needed to set everything to manual mode in BIOS, even though we were not using BIOS and we were doing it through software. I wanted it to at least be, I think, turned on to manual mode. At least that's what it seemed like it worked. So we're going to bring it down, see if it goes colder or not, is what the immediate goal is. Actually, I'm not even going to apply this. Let's just see if it dies. I don't think I applied it. Score should be pretty bad here. We're just trying to see when does it black out. ZDG, sorry I'm late. Oh, good to see you, ZDG. ZDG says, been dealing with life things and then failing to give Blender's dev team some coffee funds for the, I'm sure Andrew appreciates you donating to them, for the great work. Says, hope all is going well at GNHQ. It's going pretty well. I'm happy with the overclocks tonight. 5 gigahertz at the voltages we were at, under 1.5 volts, made me pretty happy, so that's good. And ZDG, I know, is into 3D modeling and animation software, so that's why he's bringing up Blender. He's been a long time Patreon backer of ours. Probably what I'll do tonight is just run through, we empty this doer. There is more, but it'll just be a good stopping point, so we'll kind of run through the rest of this, see where it lands, and then call it there. Okay, so that did okay at minus 115, which is expected at this point. Wanted it lower, but it was running low. Let's see if it dies at minus 121. Score is expected to be low right now. It's on auto. Just testing the cold bug. Minus 118, 119, 120. Oh, there it goes. 123. Not great. So that's going to be about our limit, I think. I do a bunch of super chats here. Actually, let's see. Where are we on the... Where am I on chats? We are not too behind on these. Okay, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shout out this order that just came in. I'll read through the super chats. I'm going to recap where we are now before I do that. And then we'll start rolling, closing out the stream at that point. So to do the recap first, the scoring ended up at, let's see. What?
Do you want to put it on the screen?
Yeah, sure. Is it full screen?
No, but I can. No, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to look at OBS while you film that. This is going to be our very like comical way. I could screenshot it and put it in an OBS, but we're going to do it like this instead. So that's just my notes I took while doing the stream today. Nothing too crazy on the note taking, but yeah, full stock before. That top line is before doing, sorry for a screen door effect if you see it, but that top line is before dropping IF, so Infinity Fabric. 7630 for that. Then we lost 1,000 points, which is expected, down to 6873 by dropping Infinity Fabric, 1467 for that. That was at minus 20 degrees. Minus 50, we did 4.4, 1.4 set, 7855 points. 4.9 was the next one I wrote down. We did a few in between there. They're like 4.6 and 4.8. But I wrote down 4.9. That was minus 100. 1.4 set. That's 1.35 get. And SVI2 hardware info. Picked up some more points there to 8732. Then we went to 5.0 at 1.5 set, 1.437 get. And we went to 82 points and 8907 with a rerun. And then at 5.1 minus 119 degrees Celsius, we were barely able to make it through that final run. 1.55 set, 5.1 gigahertz, 9062. So that's where we're going to stop for now. I know that for sure people like Der Bauer, hardware numbers, Buildzoid, they can get the clocks higher on this same CPU, I'm sure. What I need to do at this point, so like points of learning for me after the stream, will be to probably talk to Buildzoid and hardware numbers and ask them, so hey, this is where we got stuck. The biggest limitation for me right now is that I can't get the voltage higher because we need it to be colder, but we can't really get below minus 121 right now. I know hardware numbers can run like minus 150, 190 sometimes, I think. So what I need to do is talk to them and figure out hey, what's the next step to really be able to consistently. I tried a few things like SoC I played with, IF I played with, but there's more we can do. So I talk to them, figure out how do we get it so that I can run this thing colder. And then at that point, we can maybe try like 1.7 volts and push it up to like say 5300, 5500 megahertz. That would be kind of the real goal. But that's where we're gonna stop for scoring. I'm pretty happy with that. Great place to stop and ask the pros what the next things are I can learn so that I can improve my abilities for the next one. We can try it again. And then as far as the CPU, I'm really happy with the quality on the voltage at a given frequency. This chip is doing well. So, you know, XT might be binned a little better. It's still not something we recommend buying for out-of-box use, but for any kind of enthusiast stuff, then yeah. What was the peak? Was 51 all-core. 5.1 gigahertz all-core. I just recapped all of the, if you go back in the DVR bit, I recapped all the other stuff. Okay, so now what I need to do is catch up on the super chats. I'm gonna make sure we read them all. I'm not going to be taking any more super chats after this point so that we can close out. So let me delete that from the overlay here. So as of 10:04 time on my computer, we are not taking any more super chats. Please don't send any further ones, but I'll read all the ones up till now. We had a store order from Josh in Illinois who picked up a video card components poster and a teardown crystal statue. Thanks for grabbing those. And we had one order in just now, actually, from Matthew in California, who picked up a wireframe mouse mat and a ceramic mug. Thank you, Matthew. So the last round of super chats that came in, we got ZDGs, we got a person's earlier. Harble Fan. Would you consider reviewing the Cooler Master NR200 MITX case? Unfortunately not right now, just because we're not really geared up for it. It takes a lot to really get new methodology rolling. And to switch to ITX, we would have to test a whole bunch of other ITX cases, develop a methodology, pick the right components that show scaling. No plans right now. My voice is dying. J Mills Customs, oh, I think I got yours actually. So I got yours. Kyle Need, can you make a snow cone from that LN2 ice? Probably. Doesn't really need to be on right now, so there's not much risk of spillover. It is probably extremely cold to touch, though. Oh, I mean, that's, I don't know, that's like mostly frozen on there at this point. I was gonna say, it might actually just be like breaking the paper towels. You could make a snow cone out of it. I don't know that I want to eat it, just considering the surface it was on, but guess you could do that. Next one, Brandon Mullen. Patriot M.2 won't even format with third-party tools. Can you help? So, things to look at. I mean, I run into that issue a lot. Try the built-in. So, go to Start Run. Type in disk mgmt.msc, diskmanagement.msc, and see if it pops up there. Try to format it. You might need to initialize it first. If it doesn't pop up there, you could try diskparted. It's a separate utility installed on a bootable USB key. Follow instructions for that. Boot into diskparted or gparted or whatever it's called these days. And try gparted and see if that'll give you access to it. Otherwise, contact their support department. Let's see, I got Tom's. ZDG had another one. Said 5 gigahertz, so the YouTube algorithms don't block the OC this time. Great stuff. Thank you, ZDG. We did hit, I think we hit 5 right when he sent that message. Dave Leviathan Prim. Really like seeing these LN2 streams. Very interesting to see how far things will go. Hashtag tater tots and chill. I want to do the 10600K, I think, for the next one. We haven't really done LN2 on Intel for a while, and I think that would be a fun one. I just need to study it a bit more. So definitely happy to hear there's interest in them. Let's see. We've got about a page and a half of Super Chats left. So John sent $2, said, what is your favorite food, and why is it tater tots? I feel like this is a trick question, but I'm not really sure why. Although I am at this point getting hungry, even though I shouldn't be, just because of all these questions about tater tots. Andrew Ryder, do you think we'll ever see great overclocking CPUs like the Celeron 300A, i7 920, etc. again, or was the 2600K the last of them? Is this PS? This is 7980XE. Glad to see people still remember that. The 2600K was really good, but you have to remember too that those older CPUs, especially you're talking like 24/7 overclocks, the older CPUs, you're also talking about a time when they weren't pushing the silicon as close to the limit, and now it's like it's less fun from an overclocking standpoint, but better from an out-of-box, you get the most out of it standpoint. So will we see that era again? I mean, the 10600K goes pretty far, but I guess it doesn't go quite as far as the 2600K did relative to stock. So I don't really think we're going to see a lot of that because at this point, they're all pushing, Intel and AMD are pushing so close to the limit. V Productions, 999. And I should say, there will be other ways that the overclocking is interesting, like memory and stuff. V Productions, in your opinion, is AMD fine wine real? No, it's not. Because it's kind of, like this is normally used to refer to the GPUs. That's not a thing. It's not good to it'd be like It'd be more like if you advertised our wine is terrible when you buy it. Like, in fact, it's so bad that it'll render you unconscious for days just for a sip of it, i.e. the 5700 XT drivers. And then saying it'll get better to the point where it's consumable at some point, probably. Like, that's not a good marketing point. People like to say AMD Fine Wine like it's a good thing, that it starts out a buggy mess and then it becomes usable. That's not really what it's supposed to do. Like, it should start out usable and become better, not start out a mess for half of the user base, like the XT series of GPUs, and then become usable for those people. So no, I don't think it's real. I think it's a fantastic spin. ZDG, over 2,000 watching at the time. He sent that to borrow a phrase from another YouTuber, quote, smash that like button. And he says, credit Simon Whistler of Today I Found Out. Not familiar with that one, but I have heard that phrase a lot in a lot of places. There's also slap if you watch Davey 504. A single serving friend SSF. As you read this, I am going old school and overclocking Trident X, 16 gigabytes, 3,000 megahertz on a Z97N. Let's see, with a 4790K. Ever used Trident X? Actually, yes. Yes, we have some actually still. 4790K was a pretty fun part to work with too. Let's see, we're almost through all of these. About a page left. Logan H. Spent 2 hours redoing my cable wiring because my case lights didn't work. They say my SATA plug wasn't connected. I had to make that public, keep looking to work. So 2 hours redoing cable wiring because the case lights didn't work and the SATA plug wasn't connected. 100%, I know what you're talking about. This is why I don't really like building in cases if I can avoid it and work on a bench. Because you end up having to dig through all the twist ties and zip ties you really painstakingly put together to make it look nice. Then there's like some buried cable in there you can't even see anymore that's not plugged in. Max Cora, any thoughts on the 3900 XT and the big DE it brings? Oh, okay. So for overclocking, BDE, I guess, overclocking the 3900 XT is, I mean, the voltage is definitely lower than what I would have expected for a given high frequency versus like a 3900X, for example. So people talking about 4790K in chat. Let's see. 4790K has been demoted to running my Plex server. That's so sad. It's still a good CPU. Hope you feel terrible for demoting it like that. Let's see. Threadripper motherboards are not cheap. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely correct. A couple more super chats. Pigs are hairy. New Zealand, $5. Thank you. I've watched so many of your vids. Every time I read hardware specs, I hear it in your voice in my mind. That is not the intended outcome, but we'll take it at this point. Yeah, hardware specs is probably one of my most said phrases. Sean Aguinaga, $5. Are you interested in or have you seen the Ice Giant Thermosiphon? It should be available in the fall. Seems to require a large die or surface area. Yeah, definitely interested. Their current one is built around Threadripper. I've actually just asked them a couple days ago if they are planning to market it towards non-Threadripper parts. Could definitely cool them, but I don't know if they expect it to be as competitive or not. So I've asked the questions. They're supposed to be getting me one once the review sample, like the retail samples are in. I didn't want a prototype, so we're waiting. But as soon as retail samples are ready, we should have a review up for one. Tom Kavulik says, is it true a blue shop towel is plus 2% buff to stability per square foot? Well, I mean, this helped earlier when I added that. So, I don't know, you unfold those, that's probably about 2 square feet. So yeah, I'd say yes. Shane Eslick, no message, thank you. Zane Romberger, $5. Steve, I haven't, don't send super chats. I just saw someone send one. I'll read that one, but don't send any more because we're going to cut it off. Zane Romberger, Steve, I have an X370 Gaming 5 with 3900X. I'm happy, but I'm considering an X570 Elite with all the over voltage, over current concerns coming out. What would you do? I'm not sure I'm familiar with specifically the over voltage or current concerns, because I know there's been a lot of them over the last couple years. But I mean, if you're happy with it, to answer the question, what would I do? What I would do is I would run some monitoring logs with hardware info, collect the data. It's all in the software, it's easy. Collect some data running a few different applications, look at the voltage that it's reading, check out the power reporting deviation column. We have a whole video on that, and that'll tell you like the percent deviation from baseline. Baseline's 100. Does not work if it's overclocked, so you need to look at it stock. And if you're close to 100, like say 97, 94, then that part's fine. In that case, the actual power reading in watts and hardware info should be pretty close to accurate. If you're at like 80, it's not going to be accurate at all. But I'd start there, and then I would do, let's see, reading the question again. Then at that point, maybe look at the VRM temperatures. I don't have that board in my head anymore. I don't know what its VRM spec looks like, but check the VRM temperatures, make sure you're just not burning it out or anything. But as far as the voltage and current, I would probably just run hardware info, log it, look at SVI2 TFN, see what that number says when it's under load. That's what really matters when there's current there. If it's like 1.5 when it's idle, don't really need to worry about it. It's not doing anything. So just under load is where it really matters. That's what I would do. And then based on the numbers I see there, consider the upgrade. Not too many left. Logan Campbell, $20, no message, thank you. Russell Purcell, $10. Not sure how to ask, but can you talk a bit about the latency between the temperature drop, oh, I see what you mean, in the LN2 pot and the pouring of the LN2, and how quickly the temps rise as you test? Excellent question. I'm not going to demonstrate it just because we've been kind of letting it sit here and mostly broken down at this point. But I could probably I'll do a quick demo with no power in it so you can see a baseline. So you can watch this number, and maybe if Andrew's able to keep the pour in the shot a little bit, I don't know how we're going to make the number visible. I'll try position it over here maybe. Oh, the fan's not on, so you should be able to see it. So it's very reactive. We don't have any power in the CPU right now, so it's not fighting back. That was not much of a pour though. And I mean, you can see the meter's not even really updating fast enough to catch up with it. So it wasn't a huge drop. There was a couple degrees, but it was pretty instant. There's like another 4 degrees within the meter's running behind reality there. So within a couple seconds. In terms of actual testing, how does it behave and using it? The latency and the temperature drop. Let me answer the back half of that first. How quickly do the temperatures rise as you test it? If you don't keep pouring over the course of the Cinebench R20 run, you'd have to go back and look at time how long it was running. I'm not sure, but you could count the seconds. So I would start it at 102, minus 102, not pour, and let it run at the like 143 whatever volts it was and 5 gigahertz or something. And by the end of the run, it was typically like minus 88. So that should give you a good idea for how quickly it burns it off. And then how quickly it cools down. So I did a stream with versus Jay with Kingpin there, and we would pour during a heavy workload on the GPU. And I mean, if you were kind of pouring, I'm gonna do this just over the table so I don't have to interface with anything, but if you're pouring at a pace of like about that, like that pace, it was pretty much holding dead steady in a maybe 400 watt, 500 watt workload, where there was basically no change. It was staying still at that point. A person, have you considered taking die shots of a CPU? Yes, I have an idea of how, but we don't have the equipment and I haven't tried it. But I've seen how people do it. I don't know that I'm equipped for it. Evocati Productions, $5. Take my super chat and my money, damn it. Sorry, couldn't help it. Well, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. Says, have a good night. Tell Ocular Moses I said keep kicking ass.
Okay, thank you.
He says, okay, thank you. Thank you, Evocati Productions. Last 3. Sean D. I want to rig up an Arduino setup for the bottom of your cup, so it mutes the mic automatically every time you pick it up. Oh, I see what you're saying. It unmutes it when you put it back down on the desk. I mean, hey, if you want to email us about doing a build like that, I think it'd be a fun project. I don't know how hard that is. That's not something I do, but if you have an idea, I guess let us know. That's funny that you were noticing that, though. Yeah, I typically mute the mic when I take a drink just to just in case there's a gulp in there or something. Beer, that'd be funny though. I guess you'd do like a weight sensor or something, or I guess you could do like a trip, visual optical trip. B-Rad Cooley, what's your favorite case and what monitor is that? It is an 8027QD. I had to look at the name. Case, I don't have like a favorite, but we have a best airflow cases video we just filmed. It's going up very soon. So check back for that because those would be my top choices right now. Last one. It all costs money, that's for sure. Says, I have a Sound Blaster Auto G2 Platinum card, circa 2002. I don't want to throw it away. Can you recommend a tech YouTuber I could send it to? In terms of one who would like use it, test it, do like a revisit or something, I'm actually not sure who works on those. Maybe Epos Vox. He might do that stuff, and I know he likes the older tech. So EPOSVOX, maybe try him. We don't do anything with audio, but I definitely appreciate not wanting to get rid of something that was like super high end when you got it. So that's gonna be it. We posted some, all right, I gave a recap of the numbers earlier. Hopefully someone timestamps the archive, you'll see what they were. But we've got all of that recapped a few times now. And I think that'll cover us for the stream. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with 5.1. Just barely held 5.1 at minus 119. And thank you for watching. Subscribe for more as always. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net to help us out directly and check back for additional coverage of the CPUs. We'll see you all next time.